Hey everyone, I'm Raphi Salem with the Manhattan Edit Workshop. Josh Apter, Jason Banke, how are you guys doing today?
Couldn't be better. Well, could be better. And this is vicarious. The Bills lost last night in a
Uh,
ridiculous uncalled penalty on a punt return. But in terms of the school, Jason, how we doing?
Good. Doing good. Real good. Sold
well,
out.
why don't you tell us a little bit about Manhattan Edit Workshop, what's going on at the MEW currently?
Well, Josh and I just finished up doing a little remodeling, expanding the space a little bit. And we have our first sold out 6 week in 3 years, 4 years, five
Mhm.
in person, and other classes going at the same time. As it seems to be turning a little bit. People want to be in person learning, doing
Yeah.
things.
I should have mentioned not one person in that 11 person class wants, like, there was no remote requests. I don't think that, as hard as we wanted to, like, as much as we basically made efforts to accommodate hybrid, there's very little interest in remote learning. Again, I don't want to say it like it never happened, but yeah, that's the only problem is how I'm going to squeeze myself into that office today. Because there's just two full classes cranking, and the third is now my office because of the renovation. But we'll see how long that lasts. I might have to take up some space over at your place and sublet some admin
Uh,
space.
that's an excellent segue. Josh, why don't you please introduce Mike?
So Mike Canzoniero is an old friend, classmate from NYU graduate film school from the a while ago. And yeah, we've kept in touch a long time. He's made a number of films, scrappy and independent, just the way I like them. And we workshopped a couple scenes from one of them in our class, and then for some unknown reason that maybe you can explain, he opened MCM Studios and Stages. It's like a full service production and post facility with a full psych for shooting, edit rooms, video podcasting, audio finishing, color correction, the kind of place that you would have expected in the Brill building years ago, which is, I think, part of the reason there's a nostalgia, because you kind of grew up, at Sound One, and kind of, got your, start working there and learning about what that community was like. And it seems like there's always going to be some affection for that. But tell us a little bit about yourself, that anything I missed.
Sure.
Um,
No, the Sound one was a big. There was a guy named Bill Nicholson who's unfortunately passed away, but he was the heart and soul of the Sound one building, and it was just like it was run like a family business. But then you had Scorsese, Spike Lee, Jim Jarmusch, Abel Ferrara, all in the same. I ate lunch together, and I was like, "This is what I dreamed film would be like, where you'd be people coming together and sharing notes and I, in a virtual world." And it's interesting that your class is now coming in to want to be present. I think there is something about coming somewhere and working with other creatives, and we can't all just be in our own little silos from home and think that's just as good. There's something to be said for being focused working from home. But Michael Berenbaum decided to cut Sex and the City this season at MCM because he wanted to be surrounded by other sound mixers and color correctionists and people he could ask questions to and have lunch with and find, and that's how this business works. It's a very social business at the end of the day as well.
So
The
that's
next
a
job could be coming from someone that you're sitting next to. Yeah.
so that's an excellent segue to our next item on the agenda. What is going on today? So this summer, the two biggest blockbusters were Barbie and Oppenheimer. Josh, I think you saw Barbie, and Jason, you saw Oppenheimer, or was that the?
I did see
he also saw you saw Super Mario Brothers, which was the second biggest blockbuster of the season. And I don't think Mike and I can talk to that. Our kids.
You have older people that are watching things you might be interested in. Not that I'm not interested in Super Mario Brothers, but it wasn't,
Mike,
it wasn't that good.
Mike, even though you're super busy with your work, do you get out at all? Do you actually get to see your finished products?
Yeah, no, I saw both Barbie and Oppenheimer and have strong opinions about them both. But my kids are even, I've got a daughter in Prague Film School right now, and I just dropped her off at Prague. So both my children seem to be, for whatever reason, following in the footsteps here of the film business. And I'm a little nervous for them. It's a scary, indie especially, it's a scary world. I'm sure Josh and I both went to NYU thinking, oh, we could have a career like Jim Jarmusch, like Hal Hartley. Like, do those guys have careers at this point? Like, if they do, they're the last generation that did as indie filmmakers. So, yeah, I mean, part of why I built MCM Studios is to make my own films and greenlight myself. It's very difficult out there to get indies happening. It's nice to see an indie hero like Greta Gerwig make the biggest film of the year. Isn't it interesting? Like, as much as Hollywood just kills indie and just doesn't want to do anything small, where would they be without a director like Greta Gerwig making Barbie? So that's their minor leagues. They're like eating their own farm system by destroying it. So I just don't understand anything happening in Hollywood right now, and I'm really scared for indie. But I do think a new revolution in indie is going to come along, and there's going to be a model. I just don't know exactly what that is yet. I'm guessing it's something to do with art house theatrical, but I don't even know.
Yeah, that, I remember when Little Miss Sunshine came out and just sort of defied every expectation in terms of the business it did, and people loved it and embraced it. And the next thing these studios were trying to do was crank out the next Little Miss Sunshine. Like, it was just, there was no sense of like, well, this worked because it was unique or it did something unpredictable. It was like, how do we copy this and monetize it? And so that, I think as long as they're always chasing the dollar, and that's the thing, pressure on them to do that makes it impossible to be, to look at anything but the bottom line anyway. So I don't know, look, that's a myopic interpretation. But it was interesting to see. My only problem with Barbie wasn't the movie. It was that I happened to see it at the Nighthawk and I'd never been there before. And so I had waiters, they served dinner at this theater. They serve food. And I'm like trying to watch the movie. And there's like people walking past me, like, with phones giving receipts to people, giving food to people. And it was, to me at least, like I went there with a bunch of people and no one else. They were like, really, Pete, you noticed that? I didn't even notice. And all I noticed was that I kept getting distracted, having to move my legs. And like, even those little things just pulled me completely out of the movie. So I kind of saw Barbie and I liked what I saw, but the experience, no offense, Nighthawk, but next time I'm going to sit in the middle and I'm going to see if the waiters can't don't go all the way to the middle seats, then maybe it'll be better. But it was,
you had a whole meal. You had a whole meal watching.
I don't eat when I don't do that, but everybody else did.
The Alamo, that's their thing too. And you get that they've got to find ways to make more than their ticket price to stay in business. So I don't fault them for trying. I remember going to South by the Alamo there. Oh my God, it's so cool. You can have a beer while you're watching a movie. So I embrace it, but I also think it does distract from the experience of watching the film.
Well, but Theater 80 was great too. You could get your beer and your popcorn and then walk in and drink it. It wasn't waiter service, but you could still, you know what I mean? So I think there's a balance. And look, I'm telling you, it's me. No one else cared. I just I like to lock in.
I saw Barbie at the Alamo, and it annoyed me that there was. They try to keep it minimal, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to point out.
So getting back to the indie, I love the analogy of what you said. The farm teams getting back to the baseball and the tears that are coming through the screen regarding what's happening in football or baseball. So the indie industry is supposed to be the farm league before we get to the big leagues. So it's very interesting.
But it shouldn't be looked at as if it can exceed Hollywood. But certainly, where would Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, this is the farm system for Hollywood as well as being its own life force and its own way of moving cinema as an art form forward. It's got to be both, right? So it's more than just a farm league. But if I was just dollars and cents Hollywood, for the cost of one blockbuster, you could probably fund 1,000 great little indies that year, and you might be cultivating new visions. If Hollywood is going to be the global leader in cinema, which it is, I was in Prague and I'm flipping through the dials, and the only movies they have on are badly dubbed Hollywood, movies from the last decade. If we want to maintain this as a global export, it's important to think about like how we got there and the people that make it as part of like that. We have to cultivate that. It's not just going to happen because we have the most money to throw at a movie, so that's my, if I was a studio exec, I would be like trying to own those indie filmmakers from the get-go.
So one of the things that I don't know, did you guys see Bo Burnham's Inside by any chance on Netflix? So Bo Burnham, he's a comedian and an entertainer. He has a song that he opens up the show with called Content. Here, I made this content for you while I was at home. And then I was just saying in our prep that I saw Tyrone gets cloned. They cloned Tyrone, which is an indie film. And then it's very Jordan Peele-esque. And it got me thinking, I wonder how much money it cost to create Get Out, his blockbuster, $4.5 million. So how much did Barbie cost? How much did Oppenheimer cost? And what's happening in the industry today in terms of budgeting?
Well, I don't know the budget of either one of them. Oppenheimer.
I'm sure they're around 100 million each. They're probably in that territory. Imagine you're some like big fat cat that goes into Vegas with a couple million in your bank account just for funny money. Are you going to want to go and play dollar slots? Like, even if the odds are better in dollar slots or in some way, like there's nothing wrong with dollar slots. I think that's kind of where their head is at. Like, why should we, execs are expensive. Development is expensive. Why should we develop anything less than isn't going to make us $1 billion on this roll of the dice? So I think part of it isn't just that they hate indie or they're not interested in making money. It's they're not interested in making a little bit of money for all that work. So and because there's no ecosystem around, there isn't the blockbusters anymore that can kind of guarantee that the indies can make their return their budgets. Hollywood's just given up on it as a model. Anything under 10 million, they're not interested. I have hedge funds coming to me. They don't even want to talk to me if I don't have a slate of films worth 10 million. It's too small for them to think about. So, and they're right in the sense that if you're gonna make $1 billion, you've got to do $100 million of marketing. So why would you only spend 10 on the movie and then spend 100 million marketing? So
this is the turning point in terms of, we had mentioned budgets, mentioned smaller films versus bigger films. So the way that I look at it is that technology is the game changer. You've got these AI tools coming out. You've got other lighting technology. Josh and Jason, what are you guys teaching at the Manhattan Workshop? We're teaching students how to work in the industry, but you've got to move up. Let's talk about the technology involved. So, Mike, you were mentioning about what's happening in the lighting industry.
Yeah. I mean, then you used the word content a minute ago, right? Like MCM, even though there's a strike going on, we've got full bookings in all our stages. Our post team is busy right now. There's still a lot of work in the industry. There's nothing to get depressed. I don't think video content as a thing is going away. The length of the content may get shorter and shorter, but the quantity of it is certainly not going to get shorter. And there's just as much. I mean, our post department is growing and growing. There's certainly no shortage of a need for content creation. And if you open up your mind, it could also be a half-hour series. It could be a 15-minute series. It could be a 30-second social media campaign that needs 60 elements. So I think the good news is for young people thinking about getting into the industry, the work's not going away. And everything I've thought about AI so far is that it's just another tool, like nonlinear editing was a tool. It's not a game changer where AI is going to be cutting all of our shows and all of our content. It's going to make things go quicker. It's going to make things better, but the work will still be there for certainly for post production. If in the near future, in the next decade at least.
Yeah, I think that's one that's one job that AI can't completely put out of business. I mean, there are definitely going to be a lot of people losing their jobs because of artificial intelligence. But no one can do what you mentioned, Michael Berenbaum. No one can do what he does at a certain level. Can AI assist him in pulling selects and making an assemble edit or, I think that when I heard like that, I guess I don't know if I guess I shouldn't say this online because it's probably committed to something somewhere, but someone involved with the Frame.io is creating an AI technology that will be basically a voice recognition assistant that can do that once everything is sort of ingested and transcribed, can respond to commands, can start putting things together and start facilitating the editing process. But Jason and I aren't training people to speak commands to a learning computer. We're training people to understand creativity, learn the history of editing. Like, why did it go from a wide shot coverage of the entire film to the impact of getting closer to a character? It's like, as much as the film has its own issues, watching Birth of a Nation is still a remarkable experience when you consider how movies looked and felt before there were close-ups, before there was parallel action. And these concepts are things that I'm not sure a computer can ever understand the way that a person can understand or express. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Jason? Are we teaching people to be button pushers or?
Well, as far as we know, I mean, AI is not free thinking yet. It's only doing what we tell it to do or based on things that we've done. So until that changes, I think it's just going to fill in the blanks. Like I think a lot of the people that are going to be affected are people that do things on YouTube and don't want to have a breath on their videos and automatically clip out all that stuff. And if your job is affected by that, it's probably wasn't going to be there that much longer anyways. But as far as our things, I mean, they're just incorporating tools now that are just going to help speed up the process and get rid of the stuff that people usually hate doing anyways. So
Yeah, we're using AI editing on our vodcast for a first pass of a cut sometimes, just to get if there's a quick turnaround. We'll use that dynamic editing tool that I think Premiere is integrated. We're also using AI for deck creation when we're pitching shows. If we want to visualize something, we use AI, design there. And I'm about to use it in a documentary. I have a need for some really kind of interesting B-roll. And we've been using stock in the sizzle so far. And then we thought, well, rather than buy the stock, what if we had AI generate in a style of a certain photographer or a certain artist, the B-roll, to give it a kind of a vision across all of the B-roll for this stock project. We're gonna try it. I'm not sure it's gonna work, but this is my first time integrating some AI art into a film. But in terms of like, would I not need to go shoot the interviews with these doctors or scientists down in Virginia, and I could just get their voice and create an avatar? Like, no one's gonna want to watch that. That uncanny valley thing, according to like some execs I've talked to at Adobe, is not gonna be transcended anytime soon. And I don't know about you, but I've seen like some of the AI generated avatars that some software companies are selling. Like, and the idea that your CEO is an avatar talking to your team is going to make anybody feel like, oh, he cares about, he's delivering this message with his avatar. Like, it's just not a good look I think for a lot of people to want, so I think maybe it will work in certain situations where avatars will be a thing where it's government funded and no one cares about the heart of the project. But 99% of the cases, we're still going to shoot real people. That uncanny valley thing is really awkward to watch.
But you say that, and then in 10 years, there may be no perceptible difference between the two. And
you look like AI to me right now, looking at your image on this podcast, because there's some weird filter on there.
There's no filter. I'm looking at my video filters right now.
You got something on right now that makes you look a little animated right now.
It's so weird because I'm making sure my video
great Botox.
Oh, it's got touch up my appearance. I'm going to turn it off.
Oh, turn it off.
Put it back on. Put it back on.
So
you guys have to help me right now. My brain is working on Google, but I cannot remember. What movie was it where everyone was on strike and they couldn't? Someone either got sick or the writer. So they just said, "How hard is it to make a movie? Just follow the formula," and then someone saves someone at the end. I think it came out like 20 years ago, maybe in the 90s. Do you have any recollection
No.
There was a movie where a director got canceled, and I think they plugged in the ending without him. If that's what you're referring to.
Now, I'm going to remember it for our next recording, but it is killing me. But, in terms of humanifying the AI, one of the things we learn in the industry is that you could use AI tools, but you still, at the end of the day, need a human to edit it, to check it, and to double check it. I wish
I was just talking to Mike before this thing started. I shot something years ago before there was high definition, and I had a friend at Radical Media upres it to high def 1080p, which is substandard now for broadcast or whatever. For you wouldn't finish in 1080, you finish in 4K or better. And so there's an AI tool that someone told me about that will basically interpret the thing and upres it to 4K. And I was watching them back to back just now, like, because it took 4 days to render the whole thing. And I think I like the 1080, but the 1080, though it's rougher, it's like the video grain, if you want to call it, the compression gives it heart. It gives it feeling like it hasn't been approximated. It hasn't been smoothed over. And so even though it's a higher resolution interpretation the AI did, it looks maybe like what I looked like when I had the touch-up filter on. Like something's rubbery about it. Something's less real about it. And I was like, did you
see that George Carlin doc where they seem to up-res some old Carlin footage, and he looked like a CGI creature. It was horror. It was a horrible use of super scaling or whatever they did, and denoising old archival footage. She just left it, man. It was like completely took me out of that doc.
Why can't people just leave stuff if you know it's old? It's genuine. Why do you have to make it perfect? I don't understand that.
As there's some sales guy out there that knows how to do the up-resing, and he thinks he can charge an arm and a leg for it, and he's selling. So, wouldn't it be great? I can make this 4K. And so some people are out there that know how to do it or pushing. I know a few of them, and they're the sell.
Well, one of the things we talked about in the past few weeks is that, when I tried showing my son, my 21-year-old son, in film school now, but back in high school, I tried showing him an 80s movie, and he said, look at the quality of this movie. And he was like disgusted that CGI wasn't used. And I'm like, son, it was the 80s. We didn't have CGI.
Yeah. Well, I just made a horror film with a guy that came out of the video game world, and he didn't want to use one element of CGI. And this is a guy that worked for the company that made Unreal Engine. He's like, everyone, we want to go back to Empire Strikes Back, use puppets and practical models and all that kind of. I'm with them, man. Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars film, hands down, and it's because it didn't need any CGI to make that work.
You like the Harryhausen stop action tauntauns, huh? I'll
take Empire Strikes Back over any CGI movie they got.
Well, now it all looks horrible now. Like, not only are they oversaturating the market with everything, but they're not really even, I don't want to say making interesting stuff. And I was talking to Jason, I don't know if it's because of your kids or just because you're a Star Wars nerd, but you've watched Rebels, you watched Clone Wars, so you know the characters in the new series, the Ahsoka series.
Why?
I don't, and I'm like trying to grab onto something that's giving it meaning to me. So, and you've watched it or not?
You asking me or Mike?
You.
I've watched it. Yeah, I've watched most of it. I didn't watch all Rebels, but I watched all the Clone Wars.
No, the new one, the new series.
New Ahsoka? Yeah, I have.
And you like, does it feel?
Yeah, it's good. It's just I can understand why you would need like a little bit of a degree from the cartoon to understand some of the things. It doesn't quite stand alone like the Mandalorian, and the Mandalorian incorporates all that things from that stuff too. I think that's a little bit better told, but without. Yeah. You watch the Mandalorian, you probably got a better experience. I think, right?
I think I feel closer to the. Well, Boba Fett, you go to Empire Strikes Back, right? Everybody loved that guy. The guy's got, 3 scenes, and he became a legend. I don't know what it was about that movie, but I agree with Mike. Like, there was a character-driven space fantasy. I mean, I don't know what to call it. It's just the characterization. And our kids, I think, find it boring, by the way. They don't look at it and think this is exciting. Like Star Wars is dated visually, and Empire is its pacing by today's standards would be considered slow. But I think it's hard we can't pull ourselves out of our own generation and look at it through the eyes of a 13-year-old or 15-year-old. Their standards are different. I'll tell you, we tried to watch National Lampoon's Vacation the other night. Unwatchable, slow, boring, not funny. And even Office Space, which we did go to, which kind of holds up, was still by today's standards not like, I don't want to call it state of the art, but it doesn't feel current, right? Like there's all this to say, I do agree with you, Mike. It is the best of the bunch.
But pacing is a thing, right? I mean, I'm trying to get my daughter to watch The Godfather. She keeps checking her phone on that because it's a 3-hour movie. And she enjoyed it, but at the end of the day, their attention span's not built the way ours was. And we're all a similar age, I would guess. So, I do worry a little bit about the future of feature films, asking people to sit for 90 minutes or 100 minutes and not be able to click a button or get a like for it or something like that. So I don't know. I honestly don't know the future of the feature length film. But I do know this. My son is a senior in high school and he's rejected his iPhone. He's going back to a flip phone. So there is the rumblings of a generation that's like enough with the instantaneousness of being able to be reached at all hours of the day and being able to go to the web for everything. And he's trying to he does seem to be conscious of the fact that maybe that's not the best quality of life. I'm sure we would all agree that life was better before the iPhone. Is that fair to say? Like the quality of our lives was calmer and more community and more social, and the iPhone has done nothing other than make us more productive.
Yeah, well, how would I know what vintage guitars I can't afford are on Facebook Marketplace without the iPhone? I mean, it's true. Exactly. It's a tool, but it's also there's a $1 trillion industry committed to keeping our children's eyes glued to it, and that's the part that's scary. Is there really? I mean, Luddites aside, right? I read about this group of kids that are getting together and talking.
Right, the Times articles, there's buddies.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that group that's swearing it off. I think it's terrific.
But it starts somewhere. I mean, what I'm suggesting is that may be the front end of a tide of a pushback against immediacy and internet connectivity 24/7 and short attention spans. And my son does listen to, as my daughter, they listen to vinyl records. That's been going on with hipsters for a while. My daughter shoots 35 film. Why? I'm even telling her you're crazy. They're beginning to appreciate that not faster isn't always better. And that, I just shot this horror film on 35 millimeter film. It's not going away. Panavision's as busy as ever. Kodak was only easy to get to because the strike, or they said they've been jamming. So people are returning to something that has more, I don't know, use your word, soul, organic.
Do you remember when, not that this is going to be a love fest for her, but when Jewel started singing and her music became popular, there was this pendulum swing back to sincerity, I think was really what the general feeling was, whether you think her music embodies that or not. But the pendulum swings. And if I was just away for the weekend and there were two kids, one with a Pentax and one with the Canon AE1 that I had 30 years ago. And I'm like, do you want my lenses? Like, seriously, what are you thinking? But maybe I was like, I said to the dad, I was like, I would never deny anybody a photochemical process. And it sounded so weird coming out of my mouth, but there's a physical process. There's a thing about it that's tangible, and all of this digital stuff is happening just out of reach. So, the way that Jason and Mike and I learned editing on flatbeds, the film, you held it in your hand, you cut it with a blade, that's gone. I don't think that's coming back.
Do you remember how exciting it was to go back to Brett Morgan's house, and we all shot our first year films and we got our dailies back on little rolls, and we threaded up a 60 projector. We all sat around and we were projecting on a bed sheet. And it was the greatest daily session of my life to like, you didn't know what was going to come through that projector the next second. It was like the magic of true celluloid, like, discovering what you got. Like there's something beautiful about that. And I haven't had that feeling since we've been in the digital era about looking at dailies. I already saw it on set and it was like, whatever. But,
Maybe
one of the studios I built here is a daily screening room, because I do believe dailies are an important part of work, the filmmaking workflow that we dropped, because we don't think we need it. But I do think you need it. I think it's important for the editor to see the rough footage come through with the small audience to go, oh, wait, this was maybe I didn't think that joke was funny, but man, the whole room roared when that moment happened. So maybe I should think about keeping that beat in this cut. So
Yeah, well,
I have a very strong opinion about dailies at this point.
Don't make Birnbaum do it, because I know he watches his dailies at like double speed to get through them, which I think is crazy. But like, if there's a guy who could do that, it's him. Like he's just like, yeah, I just need to save time. I know the stuff. But
yeah.
So there's a new movement coming, and we should create it. Remember Dogma 95, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if there were people who were committed to making movies without video assist, and you had to wait 24 hours to watch the dailies from the day before? Nobody would do this because you don't have to, but the set is alive. It's about moving forward and saying, I got it, I think, and moving, right? Instead of like, let's check it.
Yeah.
Well, certainly, like Tarantino's a director that doesn't sit at monitor, right? He's right up there with the actors. It doesn't matter to him to not have a monitor on set.
Right.
He's feeling the performance, and there's something to be said for being present for your actors that we got away with when now everyone's got a beautiful 4K monitor on set.
Yeah, when everybody's
there is a movement. I mean, there is definitely a movement that's happening, I think, and because you can't stop indie filmmakers from wanting to express themselves. How we do it is another story. I think it's financial as well as creative, but I have an opinion about that, which is like, you just can't make your dream project in indie. It's almost a doc narrative hybrid. It's got to be the way. Make films about the world that you live in and with things that you have, with people that you know, and develop organically that story from that world. And don't stop trying to be the next Marvel movie in your indie film. Just go very, very truthful, like Dardenne Brothers stuff. Like you almost think you're looking at a documentary. And that's how I made Making the Day for under 100K. It's like I didn't pull one location in that I didn't own.
So we're just about out of time. So let's wrap things up with if there's one takeaway that you each can share from what is happening in your world, what's coming up next at the MEWShop and in your company, Mike, and just go for it. So Mike, we'll start with you, and then Jason, and then Josh, you can wrap it up.
My takeaway at the moment is that it feels like because of this strike, we might be on the precipice of a new, like unscripted television came out of the last writer's strike, right? When there is this disruption, and we're definitely in one right now, the streamers are going to come back looking and acting differently, for sure. We know that. So it could be an exciting opportunity now when we come out of this strike to see what they're looking for and what they're going to pay money for. Maybe we'll go back to seeing that they're willing to fill their content with indies again, and so there could be some good news here, I think, during this strike, because it certainly was a broken system. So I'm looking forward to seeing how things change on the other side of the strike. That's my
and Mike, are you going to be at a trade show or a conference coming up?
We have an ACE event at MCM coming up, but beyond that, yeah, we occasionally hit the festival circuit with different projects. We're working on this horror movie I'm really excited about. I did with Wes Craven's son, Jonathan Craven, and we're going to be on the festival circuit with this horror this fall for sure. So,
very cool. Jason, what's happening at the MEWShop and what is coming up? One takeaway.
Well, my takeaway now is that Mike just put the fear that there's going to be even more reality TV, and won't escape any of that. But things are not as bad as everybody says they are, and I think that people should relax and take things in. But that's my takeaway. But as far as we're gearing up to get more classes now that we've basically changed the facility, and we're gearing up to do more classes all the time now. And I think getting back to some sort of normalcy, and we're probably going to start doing more events and hopefully one in person soon. So those are kind of our focus right now.
Sounds great. Josh, bring us home.
Yep. Well, to dovetail off that is that, we filled the September 6 week to capacity, and our November 6 week is almost full. And, that's if there's ever been a good sign, it's to have 3 spots left in a class that doesn't begin until the middle of November, Jason. It's, look, I'm knocking wood. I hope that, all the pandemic stuff is behind us, and every class let it be filled to the brim, and we'll break down more walls if we have to accommodate them. So that's been very, very encouraging. I just, my takeaway is that as long as you're, kind of open to the implications of new technology and new ideas, you can be there when the moment happens, when if there's a movement that's coming, right, you're looking at it with opportunity, and not cynicism. So that's why my wife calls me a psychotic optimist all the time, because I look at all these things and I say, like, well, what's possible? Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm looking at a 25-year-old movie shot on mini DV that I'm like, this is really interesting still. So maybe it's like it's all a big cycle, and and we'll see the pendulum swing back in the direction of more intimate, creative content or movies. Let's get the word content out of the conversation.
Yes.
Right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm Raphi Salem with the Manhattan Edit Workshop, and we'll see you on every platform, whether it's Netflix or in theaters or maybe on YouTube and Vimeo. Everybody say cheese and on the way out, and we'll stop recording.